Our Mindfulness Corner started out as a very natural collaboration between librarian and counselor. We are very fortunate in our district that our district places a huge importance and emphasis on student mental health and well-being. So we have a lot of initiatives within our district that, help us pay attention to this.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Season 6 of the Future Ready Librarian podcast series, Leading from the Library. This is a podcast for all librarians, wherever you are in your journey. It is filled with amazing guests, important topics, and engaging conversations that will inspire, engage, and support all of us as future ready librarians. I am your host, Shannon McClintock Miller. I am the district teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School in Van Meter, Iowa, and I serve as the Future Ready Librarian spokesperson. I have the pleasure of working within my library and school community, and also with others around the country and world through Future Ready Librarian events, conferences, consulting, writing, and more. I am honored to bring these voices and the work of others to our podcast and to all of you. Now, today, I am so excited to welcome my friend Crystal and my new friend Valerie to our podcast. And just to give you a little background about how I heard their story and the great work that they're doing within their library and school, I do some consulting with Harlingen School District in Harlingen, Texas. And we always have a fun activity whenever I come around maker spaces, and Crystal had shared, I actually printed it off. She shared the Mindfulness Corner resources. And so right away, I wanted to know more about this amazing thing that she shared with us that she had created on Canva. And then to dig into her story a little bit more, she had a partner in this, which I think is probably the neatest thing about this project, and how they are supporting the work of each other and their teachers, and most of all, of the kids that they're working with every day. And so we're going to start just by welcoming you to the show, Crystal and Valerie, and having you introduce yourselves to our listeners.
Well, thank you for having us, Shannon. It really does mean a lot. Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal Mendoza, and I am a librarian in the Harlingen CISD district. We are located in Deep South Texas, and I brought a friend with me today.
Hi, I'm the friend. My name is Valerie Paredes, and I am the very proud counselor here at Harlingen Collegiate High. Been a counselor for going on about 13 years, and just continuously learning and growing and getting wonderful feedback and engagement and collaboration. Of course, with Miss Mendoza, I can't say enough wonderful things about her, and we're so amazingly happy to be here today.
Thank you so much for coming. And I think just to start, share a little bit about the project. Like, start from the beginning, Crystal, of, that day that I saw it, and just what you're doing within your library.
Yes, so our Mindfulness Corner started out as a very natural collaboration between librarian and counselor. We are very fortunate in our district that our district places a huge importance and emphasis on student mental health and well-being. So we have a lot of initiatives within our district that, help us pay attention to this. One of those initiatives is we have a district counselor that has therapy dogs. And what these dogs do is that they visit schools around the district, just to provide that, I guess, what would be the word for it, Dr. Paredes?
Their support animals that definitely are utilized as part of their LPCs and our student wellness counselors. to kind of assist with really kind of creating that bond with students, because sometimes clients, students, and even us as adults don't always want to open up right away. And so part of that therapeutic process and really kind of building that rapport is utilizing the pups to really kind of help them not only open up and feel comfortable, but also to help reduce the anxiety levels that they may be feeling at the time.
Yeah, so one of these days, we had a little bit of a challenge where there were a lot of students that wanted to see our pups, but there weren't enough pups for the students. So what Dr. Paredes and I brainstormed was, well, why don't we create kind of like a center, right? So in one corner, we'll have like a mindful coloring activity, and while the kids do some mindful coloring to de-stress a little bit, our LPC services can be in one area with our therapy dogs. And it kind of every visit we would just kind of add more things to it. And I really place emphasis in student well-being as well, and I really want students to feel very welcomed in my library, in our library space. So, I kind of just brought it up to Dr. Paredes, like, why don't we just, designate a corner in the library where students they already know that corner is in case they're feeling overwhelmed, because that's another unique thing about our campus. Our students take college courses while they're in high school. So more often than not, they might be facing a little bit of anxiety. So, I really wanted to create a space within our school where they could truly feel, peace or some sort of, peacefulness throughout their day. So that's where we kind of came up with the idea of a mindful corner. So with the guidance of Dr. Paredes, I'm always asking her, what do you think of this fidget toy? Or what do you think of this resource? Or, do you think a self-love node station would be like a nice idea? So we're always collaborating. I'm always using her expertise, as a counselor, and her guidance as well, to kind of add more activities to it. So we've added things like a grounding technique poster where students are able to kind of remind themselves, like, okay, like they use their five senses to kind of calm down, like what are five things I can see, what are two things I can smell. So kind of focus on something other than school. And it just kind of, I say natural collaboration because she's also so amazing, and so she's a team player, and she just kind of took me under her wing and like helped me create this very effective part in my library. So I'm very thankful to her for that.
That is so cool. Well, and I would love, not only, I think, tips on how, that collaboration looks. And, as a librarian, we're lucky because we get to collaborate with people within our schools. But also, I think the unique thing is making sure that we remember the other people that we can collaborate and what that brings to not only our libraries, but to our school community. And so, Valerie, had you ever collaborated with your librarian before?
I'll be very honest. For me, this is just such a very interesting experience and very unique, because I think at different campuses, sometimes we tend naturally, and because it's just so busy, right? There's so many demands, student demands, work demands, that we tend to fall where we kind of fall in our little groups, the math department, English department. So it really takes time and effort and innovation to really realize how we can cross collaborate and work together. And I think here, our campus is very unique because, of course, we are a specialty campus with a lot of different stressors, just like Ms. Mendoza mentioned. But also it opens up a lot of ability to be able to do that collaboration. So it was very natural for Ms. Mendoza's, not only her personality, but her willingness to help kids, to really kind of open up a space and have somewhere where kids can go to. I think coming from the pandemic, it's just so important for the school community to start to vision each other as collaborators, as, shoulder partners, to really work together, because we're all kind of aimed towards the same goal, which is student success, student wellness, but we don't have to do it on our own. And really kind of doing these unique things is just what shows students more and more that we're invested in them. We want them to do well. We're not just academic rigor. We're also, the wellness, the spiritualness, whatever you want to, all the many words you can say about emotional, wellness, but not just that, but also for our staff, because we've noticed staff members even go in there, on a day that they're stressed and, start to work on a puzzle or, inquire on something that's in that area, where just the happiness you feel from seeing kids engaged in that way on a campus within an ILC. So it's definitely very unique. I don't know why we never thought of it before at other campuses, because it just lends itself very easily to have an area where it's dedicated. It's a safe space for a lot of kids. It tends to be a little bit more quiet than other areas. And, me and Ms. Mendoza are talking about also, starting an area, not just with, those mindfulness fidget toys and puzzles and resources, but also how can we incorporate the love of reading and literacy in that by having available resources for kids about mental health, about self-care, wellness, which is just so much we can do, mindfulness. And I think it's just such a very good indicator of where we're going in education, where we're starting to collaborate, we're thinking outside the box, and we're starting to remember that if we're not okay, and that's staff and kids, if we're not okay, how are we going to be okay in terms of work production or even in terms of academic growth? They go hand in hand. And teaching kids these skills early on is going to help them once they graduate, go off into the professional role, go off to college, and kind of learn those tips that they definitely need. So definitely unique, never experienced this before, but I'm so thankful that Ms. Mendoza has let me invade her space a little bit and collaborating together and just getting those creative juices flowing. And I think it really makes us, even more invested in what we do overall.
That's amazing. Well, and as a librarian, like being in the library, we see a lot of the kids that may be a teacher or a guidance counselor or administrator, like maybe they wouldn't see and pick up on some of these things, and vice versa. And so it's nice too, because as you have that relationship, you can support your kids in even more ways, not even about the things that are in the corner, but actually having that space in the library for kids where you can keep, that pulse on how they're doing as well. So I'm sure that listeners are probably wondering too, like, what is this Mindfulness Corner like all about? What is in it? How did you decide what to put in it? Just start kind of there, and we'll talk through that.
So, well, like I mentioned before, I started out with mindful coloring pages, and it's I don't know if it's like the pages that have like little tiny spaces to fill in, and we added colors to it, and that's when we would do the rotations with our therapy dogs, our district therapy dogs. And then, based on research, we added. I know that we're a high school, but the poppet toys are actually very popular. I've noticed that a lot of students will come to the library to work on their assignments, and they'll grab one of those, and while they're like jotting notes down, they'll have the other hand on the poppet, and they'll just be, I guess that's as a way to have something tactile that they can, work with. We also added little building blocks as well, and they'll usually create shapes. We also added a little clay station where on the sticker I just put build something, come and show it to the librarian. And and they'll come up to me, like one of them created a little iguana the other day, a Simpson character the other day as well. So it's just lends to their creativity as well. They're able to forget about their assignments assignments that might be stressors, not just assignments sometimes, but also maybe they're even their home lives, so that they're able to, have a space in the library where they can forget a little bit. And we are working on getting some literature on, how to deal with stress as well, kind of like how Dr. Paredes mentioned as well. And, we're working every day to basically create a very welcoming environment for our students here at our campus. I'm not sure if I forgot something, but Dr. Paredes, please feel free to to add to it.
Yes, I think it's great. I mean, like she mentioned, it started with the coloring pages. We were I think that's where that light kind of came on, because we initially were kind of worried that maybe the kids wouldn't take to it very well, being high school kids. And we were amazed at how really detailed they were getting with it, how intricate they were getting. They just seemed so at peace and calm. And I remember the day Miss Mendoza came in, with all her new items that she had bought over the weekend. She was just so excited coming in with all these different fidgets and puzzles and things, and also giving students a voice. And we've had kiddos that have come and they've let us know too, like, have you considered this, or have you considered this? And we're like, you know what, that's good, because that tells us they're taking ownership and they want to add additional items. So we're definitely open to adding more things. I know we've talked about, some bean bags, looking at, lamps and different things like that. So we definitely want to continue to grow it and continue to build that partnership, of course.
That's so neat. And I'm glad you said something too about student voice, because the ownership that they feel, I'm sure, is something that the kids already feel within that space, because they know you put it in there just for them. And I think hearing what they love, I always asking my kids, and I have a 17-year-old at home, and even giving him things, that I might find, or maybe I get at a conference, or I want to try out for my library. You think they're high school kids and they're going to think things are maybe silly or too young for them, but all kids and adults love things like this. And so it's a good thing to take a little breath for everyone, to be able to reflect and be mindful and just focus on themselves for a while too. And so that's, I think, the neatest thing about what you're doing. Hats off to you too.
Thank you.
It's so neat. And for our listeners, I would love to include, if you want to share the Mindfulness Corner resources that you created in Canva, we can attach them to the podcast or anything else, because I'm sure the listeners would love to see some of those things. And so we'll collaborate and come up with a list to be able to share with all of you listening.
Yes.
And you'll have to keep us updated. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And someday I want to come and see this Mindfulness Corner.
Yes, come visit us someday.
I definitely will. Well, it was so great to have you two on the show, and you're so inspiring. And I know that you've now inspired others to do the same thing. And the great thing is, it doesn't matter if you're in high school or middle school or elementary, or even if you work in a central office, for your adults to have things like this. It's important for everyone.
Yes. And we're very blessed to work in a district that pays very close attention to this. I know that I mentioned those therapy. I love those therapy dogs. If y'all hadn't noticed before, because I've mentioned them so much. Shout out to Levi and Piper and Kathy Stedman, because they really do. You truly see a change in our students. When they're brought over. So, shout out to our district as well, because it is a very important topic, and it does help our students be successful in school. So I really wanted to give a quick shout out to those parties.
And if I can also, in addition to that, I know, like Ms. Mendoza said, of course, our district's extremely supportive. I think also our campus administrator, Dr. Flores, has also been super open to not only this initiative, but we've also done, campus-wide meditation through Mindfulness Monday. We have counseling PLCs every month that we get to work with students and kids. So there's definitely a lot of great things going on at a comprehensive high schools and even secondaries can continue to grow from. The other wellness specialists, there's two of them. And I know the other one is Miss Angela Topman. And for her, I just want to do one shout out to her also, because I am so thankful that, in our area here in the Lower Rio Grande Valley, a lot of individuals and families are predominantly Spanish speaking. And when you have people that are bilingual and able to speak and communicate in Spanish, of course, that's welcoming. But as a lot of people do know, speaking in Spanish and counseling in Spanish are two very different things. And Ms. Topman has a very special gift for being able to work with students and parents and really be able to traverse that language barrier to ensure that there's not a barrier for counseling services and wellness on our district. So a big shout out to her and all her special counseling skills also.
That's really great. Well, as I know, Harlingen is an amazing place, and I am just so honored that the two of you shared your story, and hopefully we'll have other librarians and people on our podcast too, sharing all the great things going on at Harlingen ISD. So thank you both so much. So you're going to be able to find their information attached to this podcast, along with those resources that we shared and a certificate of professional development that you can download and fill out to use. As always, thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for this episode of the Future Ready Librarian podcast series, Leading from the Library. And a very special thank you to our sponsors, Follett. You make a difference in our library, schools, and within our lives and that of our students every day. We appreciate everything you do. I hope you can take what you learned in today's podcast and put it to use within your practice as a future-ready librarian. Until next time, friends, keep finding ways to lead within and from your library.